The most important thing that you can take away from this talk is to watch how much you interrupt people. The most important thing that you can take away from this talk is to watch how much you interrupt people. When someone interrupts me, even if it's just to say the exact same thing that I was going to say anyways, it tells me that whatever I have to say doesn't matter. It's not important. Maybe I shouldn't have talked in the first place. And it sucks in the most basic form. And there was a study done last year in 2014 by the Journal of Language and Social Psychology, where they had 40 people, half participants were men, half were women, having conversations. The study was to see if there's a difference in how men and women speak. And they didn't find a lot of difference. What they found was that interruptions happen. That in those 3 minutes, men would interrupt other men twice. They would interrupt women 2.6 times. Women, on the other hand, interrupted men once in those 3 minutes. They interrupted other women almost 3 times that. So women are getting interrupted a whole lot by everyone in just 3 minutes. Imagine if that's a half-hour meeting. Nothing would get said, nothing would get heard, nothing would get done. And I've been in that meeting. I've been in so many of that meeting where I want to say something, but by the time there's an opening for me to speak up, the topic's changed. Or I want to say something, but there's already these 2 dudes, and they're interrupting each other, and I don't know where I fit on this weird chain of interrupting, because I don't want to interrupt someone interrupting someone else. That's just really awkward. So maybe I don't say anything. I stay quiet. Next meeting comes along, I don't try to talk this time. I mean, what's the point? Maybe I just look at cat pictures instead. I mean, they're not going to hear me anyways. And it's weaker. It's weaker for me. It's weaker for the team. It's weaker for the meeting. Why am I in a meeting if I'm not participating? And this thing, imposter syndrome, this feeling that you're a fraud and everyone's going to find out, that kicks in. And it's this whole spiral downwards. And it's a mess. It's a real mess. But that's just my experience. A couple of weeks ago, the creator of the Dilbert comics, Scott Adams, blogged about this very topic, interrupting. And he said, quote, "Women have made an issue of the fact that men talk over women in meetings. In my experience, that's true. But for full context, I interrupt anyone who talks too long without adding enough value." He goes on to say that women talk more than men, so why not blame them instead of the interrupter? I know that this is bullshit, but let's explore why. Women are not talking more than men, not in meetings, not in that 3-minute conversational study I spoke about, not in this Yale study where they tried to see why women weren't speaking as much in meetings. And they saw that women were afraid of backlash. And so they looked further, like what backlash? And they found that women who speak more get lower ratings in performance reviews. Men who speak more get higher ratings in performance reviews. So women speaking too much in meetings is not the root of being interrupted. What else can interruptions tell us? There was a study with the American Sociological Review where they had 6 men in a group talking. They found that most of the interruptions were generally positive. As they added women to that ratio, the interruptions became more and more neutral and negative. That study also found that when a key indicator of someone who's more likely to interrupt was someone in higher power, as in maybe your boss or your manager or yourself if you're higher up the job ladder. Another study at University of Pennsylvania found that men are not more likely to interrupt. It's that women are more likely to be interrupted by everyone. So what are we supposed to do about this? I mean, how do we give space for people who want to be heard, who are trying to speak up and no one's there to listen? I'm going to talk about active listening skills, and there's 2 parts to this. There's listening to others and there's listening to yourself. And listening to others, I mean, microaggressions are basic, so it's going to take basic steps to fight them. So listening to others looks like eye contact. It looks like nodding and paraphrasing, asking clarifying questions. I mean, it's listening with the intention of absorbing rather than the intention of replying. The other part of this is listening to yourself. I mean, since working on this talk, I've been joking so much about how I'm writing this talk about interrupting, like with friends, and then 5 to 10 seconds into a conversation, I realize I've interrupted already. And I can't help it. I mean, I get excited, I talk before I think, and I just want every conversation to have all the available information that I have. But that's not how conversations work. And I stop, and I slow down, I back up, and I say, I'm sorry. I interrupted you. Do you want to continue about XYZ? And we're all human. We're all going to interrupt. It's completely unavoidable. But the best thing we can do is give the floor back. What else can you do? You can observe. If you're in a meeting, someone's not speaking up, you can give them the floor. Say, do you have an opinion on this? Would you like to speak up? You can even start the meeting by saying, please keep in mind, do not interrupt during this meeting. Just simple, small steps. And these tools, active listening skills, observing, these aren't just for your boss or your manager. They're for everyone. They're for yourself. There's a lot of evidence out there that women are being interrupted a whole lot. Not even just by men, but by women as well. We need to slow down. We need to listen to each other and listen to ourselves and show the respect that we want in return. I know that this sounds basic, but the long-term consequences are anything but. The most important thing that you can take away from this talk is to watch how much you interrupt people. Thanks.